Why? Why do we care about roots, fourths, and fifths? The intervals of a fourth and a fifth, like we're going to talk about. Anyone who's played with other people long enough has been in a situation where you've got a nice song in the key of G or C or D or A or E or another key that us guitar players like, and the singer is convinced that their voice, oftentimes correctly, that their voice sounds better in a different key, and so they say, let's play that same thing in E flat. So we need to quickly be able to do that same progression in the key of E flat. All right, and so we know in the key of G, we have a 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. So just like with octaves, we're going to identify some patterns on the fretboard that are going to get us these mental shortcuts so that we can really quickly know that this is a 1, 4, 5, 2. E flat, A flat, B flat is 1, 4, 5. Just like in the key of G, this was 1, 4, 5. All right, and there's all these patterns, just like with octaves. We have this, we have this, we have this, right? For G's, those are G octaves. There's also patterns that will help us identify in the key of G, fourth, fifth, 1, 4, 5. And then since in a major scale, the root, the fourth, and the fifth are major chords in our keys of chords, right? We can just put bar chords around these intervals and go 1, 4, 5. So let's start with this low E string. This is the first pattern we're going to identify, root, fourth, fifth. And that's the same with any starting pitch. So we can go up to the C note and know that that's a C. If that's the root, then that's the fourth and that's the fifth. Or in our example that I just played, in E flat, we know that's an E flat note. So if that's the root, root, fourth, fifth. Now how do we know that? Let's go back to the major diatonic scale, okay? Let's start in the key of G. We can keep going if we want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, a root, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, root. And we can go back to our keys of chords to know that when we're playing a diatonic chord progression, like the keys of chords that we learn when we're just starting the guitar, right? Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. So in the key of G, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. We can play that a couple different ways. Major. So that's why we know, that's why this 1, 4, 5 progression is so important. Because it's used, you know, I dare say as much or more than any other progression or any other chords or chord combinations in these keys of chords that we learn in songs and when we're jamming. It's a 1, 4, 5 progression is used all the time in popular music. 1, 4, 5. And so by following that scale, 4, 5, we can know that this pattern gets us the 1, 4, 5 string on this low E string. And like we said, we can identify that starting with any root note, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. That's one key pattern. That can help us have these mental shortcuts. It can shorten our processing time when we're trying to play in unfamiliar keys, other than the ones where, like an E flat or an F sharp. Let's go to F sharp. 1, 4, 5. So if we wanted to jam with our buddies in F sharp, we're just going to go 1, 4, 5, and we're going to put major bar chords around them. Root, 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 major chord, major chord, major chord. And now we can jam in the key of F sharp. Okay, and that we're going to identify other patterns here. The most important ones for me when I was figuring this stuff out are these low strings, but we'll talk about the high strings too. On the A string, let's stick with the G note. Okay, so we know this is a G string. Now we need G, C, D. That's 1, 4, 5, right? So where would we find that? If we wanted to go up to the D string, we know that's a C note and that's a D note, and look at that. It's the exact same pattern, right? 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's that same pattern. So that's a good pattern. But let's try to go down. Let's go to this low E string. If that's the one, where can we find a C note and a D note? C, D, G, C, D. So this is another visual pattern that we want to recognize. We can go down one string and down 2 frets, and that's going to be the 4th interval, G to a C. And then we can take a G note here, and we can go down, stay on the same fret, and go down 1 string to this low E string, and that's a 5th. This is an important one. We're going to talk about this for just a minute here. We got these alternating bass lines in country sometimes, you know. It's this root 5th, root 5th, root 5th. Go to C chord, root 5th, root 5th. To a D chord, root 5th, root 5th. So this is an important interval, especially for these bass lines, especially in country music. Root 5th, root 5th, root 5th, root 5th, root 5th. And that's an easy one, because all we do if we're on the A string, we just drop it down, stay on the same fret, we go to that low E string. Okay, and it works for any chord. So if we want a C chord, we want to find the 5th for that alternating bass pattern, we just drop it down. If we're on the A string, we just drop it down to that low E string and stay on the same fret. It also works the other way. If we wanted to go, the root 5th alternating bass pattern works the other way too. It's still root 5th, right? 1, 4, 5. And it would work better if we were down here. 1, 4, 5. You got the alternating bass pattern. So hopefully you're catching on to the idea here. There are these patterns on the guitar neck that we can visualize that can help us do this math a little bit more quickly in our heads. So far, to review, we got root, 4th, 5th. And then if we're on the A string with our root, root, 4th, 5th, or root, 4th, 5th. And that works, like I said, not only in G, but with any starting pitch. That's how you can find 1, 4, 5 with the root on those strings. It's going to be the exact same patterns on the D string. So let's find a G note. Where are we going to find a G note on here? Right there. Then we need C's and D's. C note, D note. It's the same pattern, right? 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. It's the same going this way. 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. Going back to the octaves, that also makes sense, right? It's the same pattern, 1, 4, 5. Again, works with any starting pitch. The one time we're going to deviate with the pattern is when we get to this G string. You'll probably notice that a lot. It was the same with octaves, right? That's the same, but then we get to where we jump across from the G to the B string, and it changes, the pattern changes. And that's because these intervals of the open strings change there. E to A is a 4th, right? 1, 4, 5. We can do the same thing with open strings. E to A is a 4th. A to D is a 4th. D to G is a 4th. But G to B is not a 4th. That is a 3rd. To be a 4th, it would have to be a C note. Why did whoever kind of popularized this tuning do that? I don't know, but this is the way that we call standard tuning on a guitar now. And this G to B is a different interval, so that's going to alter the pattern. It's not bad, it just changes the pattern. So when we get to a G note on the G string, which would be here or here, let's do it up here, we can no longer go root, 4th, 5th. That doesn't sound right, because it's not, right? We'd have root, 4th, 5th, G, C, D. But that's still another good pattern to recognize. If we're on the G string with our starting pitch, we go up 1 string and up 1 fret for the 4th, and we go up 1 string and up 3 frets for the 5th. Root, 4, 5, root, 4, 5. Going backwards, it's the same though, because these intervals from G to D are the same as these other strings. So we have G, C, D, root, 4th, 5th, root, 4th, 5th, root, 4th, 5th. Now, finally, let's talk about the B string. Let's find a G note. We need G, C's, and D's. So if we go root, 4th, 5th, now we're back to that same pattern, right? Root, 4th, 5th, root, 4th, 5th, root, 4th, 5th. But when we go backwards, we got this G to B string, different interval, so it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have root. Instead of going down 2, we'll need to go down 3, 4th, 5th. So those are the patterns that we see on the guitar neck for roots, fourths, and fifths. Or another way to say that is 1, 4, 5. And you hear people talk about these 1, 4, 5 progressions a lot. So let's practice a little bit. So say you're doing a 1, 4, 5 progression in the key of D. What would that be? Here's the D note, right? So let's go down. 1, 4, 5. And we know in the key of D, the fourth, in any key, the fourth and the fifth chords are both major chords. So let's put some bar chord major chords around them. So we've got a 1, 4, 5 progression in D. We've just put these major bar chords around it, and we're going. But then someone says, I want to change it. I want to play it in F instead of D. We're going to move it up to F. So now F's our root. We need to find an F note, and we need to find the fourth and the fifth. So we know the pattern here is 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. Put major chords around them. 1, 4, 5. Which makes sense, right? The key of F, major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 4, 5. So we can go. All of a sudden, we're jamming an F, and you can do that in any key. So hopefully this is making sense to you, and hopefully this can help after you practice it over and over again. This can help cut down our mental processing time when we need to move these chord progressions around into other keys.